everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of the Ripple Effect Podcast. Welcome to the new year, and I hope that you had a wonderful holiday season and that you are making it through today. I'm a bit sluggish. I don't know if you guys feel that.
A little bit.
After the celebrating and after the everything traveling and all that's done, today is a day of trying to recuperate.
Yep.
But we are so glad you've joined us, whether you're listening to this on the go or watching this. We're glad that you are with us today. We have some recap of last Sunday. We've got the TLCC Top 3 coming up and a spotlight. But before we get to any of that, we always like to give you the sponsor of the week. And the sponsor of the week is simply water, because one of my New Year's resolutions is I'm not going to do any sugar. We're just going to go straight water. It's going to be super healthy.
Wait, you're cutting out sugar altogether?
Altogether, no sugar.
How do you explain? What? How do you explain that?
Levi, stop, Levi.
Those are just reserved for later, I guess.
Guess so.
So let's get to the recap of last Sunday. And I don't think I could cut out sugar completely, unless my doctor was like, "You're gonna die if you don't cut out sugar completely." It's about managing it. Okay, don't eat 12 Reese's at all times. But we just want to say we hope you have a happy New Year, and we hope it gets started out well. And then you take the time to make some decisions about where do you want to be next year, where do you want to end up next year, and make some commitments to do so. But yeah, I don't think I'm going to cut out sugar altogether.
Especially when there's 750 of those in the hallway all the time.
And I plan to eat 740 of them.
Yeah.
Let's get to recapping the last Sunday. This past Sunday, we had Pop-Tarts and Plaid, and we had a great Sunday. For whatever reason, I feel like the last Sunday of the year is just a relaxed Sunday. It's just, I'm not sure who's actually going to show up because you don't know who's traveling, and it was pretty relaxing for us. But before we get to our experience, how was your experience Sunday, Brian?
Good. We actually did listen to Levi, but not till yesterday.
Oh, okay.
On the way back from Kirksville.
You were traveling.
Which was very good, by the way. I probably listened better to the sermon online than I ever do at church because I'm so scatterbrained. But, we were in Branson, and we visited. It used to be Tri-Lakes Christian Church, but now they call it The Grove.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And it was really interesting because we were there and we saw some people we knew from ICOM, and, I think they were moving there. The lady that runs Beth Noah Ministries and that. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so we saw them, sat right behind them, and the preacher from there was supposed to be on vacation, but he was there. And I'm sitting there like, why didn't you leave town?
You gotta leave town.
I was kind of judging him, like, can you not take your hands off the wheel even for one weekend? You know, because it's like he was still checking on things.
Right.
But he gets up at the end and he's like, I was just diagnosed with colon cancer and have to let you guys know. So it was like,
oh my goodness,
we were there for a really emotional morning, and all the elders came up, and then it made me feel awful because I was.
Oh wow.
You were thinking he was micromanaging everybody.
Yeah.
It's like foot here inserted.
Yeah, exactly. Put it right
But
in there.
I mean, it was kind of course, we hate that that's going on, but it was neat to. We heard a guest speaker on the day we were there as guests, and he was challenging the congregation. But then at the end of the service, to be a part of this emotional time, like he's revealing this to his church, was kind of weird to be there on a day like that. But also
pretty
neat
cool
to look into another church's life and this stuff they're going through, and now we can pray for them and check up on them, and
I had a similar experience when I was in college. We went to this church. And it was a church plant, and it seemed to be doing well. They had maybe 150, 200 people there, and it seemed like that many. I don't know the exact number, but there was a lot of people there. And the preacher, they had been going for several years, and he got up and he told the church, "I have to step back because I'm burnt out, and the leaders are telling me to leave, and it's really hard for me." And there was so much emotion, but to get a glimpse into another church and see how the church came together that Sunday as a guest really spoke volumes about what the church is supposed to be all about. So that's cool. Well, good. It was a good time off.
Yeah.
Nothing fell apart here. The lights all behaved, and luckily we didn't have any crazy lights going on in the church, but everything seemed to go well.
I was thinking Sunday, I Like I did, as we were sitting there waiting for that church to start, I did pull up our church for like 5 seconds, but I didn't worry about anything this time.
Good.
And it's great to be able to do that because I know a lot of friends that feel like they can never leave their church because something, either they don't have people to fill in or whatever.
Well, don't tell Brian about what happened if he didn't see it. Don't tell him.
Keep that on the down low.
So I had a great Sunday. We had been traveling and all that, but we had already practiced music before, and I got to lead music, and we had some youngins up there. Mackenzie Johnson sang, Kirsten DeFreitas sang, Jimmy, I'll call him a youngin too. He's not. But we had a fun time leading music together. And I thought it went really well. But my highlight was Levi got to preach.
I did.
And Levi, now you've preached for class before.
I have, yeah.
You've taught some lessons back with the youth. Mm-hmm. Have you ever preached in front of a congregation before?
No, I have not.
It's first time.
First time.
Wow.
Okay. So tell us about something that happened or that you experienced through speaking that was unexpected. Because you have some stuff that you planned for, but something that maybe a thought that ran through your mind that you didn't think you'd have, or something happened the morning of, or not. Like, was there something unexpected? And then what was the best part?
Something unexpected. I didn't really have that much unexpected. I ended up practicing it a lot, so that way I, really knew what I was going to say. During first service, I lost my place a couple of times because I was doing it on the iPad, so I didn't have pages to flip, which is much easier for me. But I lost my place a couple of times, and then just skipped over a couple of spots because I lost my place, couldn't find it, and so I went to the next thing.
Or just keep going?
Just kept going. Yeah. But I added in more in other areas that I didn't have written down, so I thought it kind of balanced out a little bit. But second service, I was able to keep my spot and flow through it a little bit better. But
that's good.
And best part, I would say, is just whenever I started speaking, like I was nervous going into it, both services, even after having done it for first service, but going into it being nervous. But after I started speaking, being up there, I can see people in the crowd, and I could, they were interacting with me a little bit. They weren't just like sitting there staring at me. And that actually helped me a lot to keep going. And I think it helped me move through it a lot better. So that was probably the best part of getting up in front of that many people, which is the first time, but then getting a lot of good feedback while I was speaking. And that helped me kind of move through it a little bit better.
That's great. Did you see Piper and I during second service taking a selfie together while you were preaching? Did that distract you?
No.
She was sitting next to me, and she was like, I looked down and she's got a phone out and she's like taking a selfie, and so we made a face real quick, and I was like, man, this is going to be really distracting. We're in the front row. Don't do that, okay? Don't do that. Well, as two very seasoned and expert preachers sitting here, we can say we thought you did a great job. Very poised. You couldn't, some of those rookie mistakes that a lot of people make. I mean, you have given sermons at the college, but some of those rookie mistakes of the and the ums and making points that don't make sense and all that, you did a really good job. And I do have notes for you, but we're not going to talk about them.
Yeah,
here.
You can riff into it.
Yeah, I can get into it later. But no, it was a great service, and if you missed any of that, you can go to tlcc.church and you can hear Levi's first sermon that he's given here. And or you can go on the Facebook page and you can catch both services if you want to compare notes and try to figure out where he missed the points and changed it a little bit. But it was a great service, and we hope that you enjoyed the Pop-Tarts. Many people ate them. I was surprised.
Really?
I was kind of thinking that Pop-Tarts might not be as popular anymore, like everybody's trying to be all healthy and do like, I don't know what people do. But there was a lot of people who had Pop-Tarts, and particularly kids that came in. We had several guests, kids, and when they brought their kids, like they immediately were comfortable because they saw something they recognized, and like people could talk about the Pop-Tarts and they could eat something, and it was great. So
it was everybody's last chance to get a whole bunch of sugar in before all the New Year's resolutions kicked in.
To not eating sugar.
It's a good opportunity to get all those sugars in.
I saw this sign on a Dairy Queen someone posted it. It said, "Ruining your New Year's resolution since 1964."
Oh, yeah.
Have you seen that? That was really good. Anyway, it was a great Sunday. Go check that out at tlcc.church if you missed it, or on the Facebook page. All right, we got to let you know about the top 3 announcements. TLCC top 3 coming up this week. Things you need to be in the know about. Brian, take it away. What do we got to know about?
I only have 2. It says top 2.
TLCC top 2!
Unless these guys think of something else. Thankfully, honestly, it's a little bit of a downtime.
Yeah, it's great.
And we're always really grateful for that. At least I am.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I did have a third one, and it's the Megatree Teardown, but I don't know when it is yet, so it's really not a top 3.
Yeah.
But we'll let you know when we're ready to tear it down and hope for some help.
It's a soft announcement. We're going to be tearing it down at some point. If you would like to help, we'd love that. We're not sure when.
I guess if you know you can help, or you want to help,
that might
just
make the day.
Let us know, and then we'll try to set the day based on who's there. But we usually try to make sure at least a couple of us can be here, and then we announce it and hope some of you can be there.
Mm-hmm.
But the first one I really had written down was for the Men's Second Saturday, and that'll be on January 13th, right here at the church. We're going to do it here again. I think we're just going to have it here at the church for the winter months, we decided, because we don't know what the weather will do and stuff, and don't want to go out of town or anything like that. So join us for that, a little Bible study, and we'll try to have donuts here and coffee, and we'll be ready to go.
God, have the donuts.
And maybe you're a guy who's kind of setting one of your New Year's resolutions, or what did we call them last year? Intentionality or something like that. I don't remember. Anyway, if we're wanting to, be involved in more community, that's a once a month commitment for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
So,
and it's a great opportunity just to fellowship, because we don't sit there and then me or Brian or someone preaches. It's a Bible study, but interactive, and we pray together, have times of conversation. So it's a really good time to be able to share with one another and engage in relationships with one another. So
I do love that group because, like in November, I think it was, I was leading it, and it was a day that was like completely interrupted by somebody from another church who came in and shared something that was on his heart. He saw us in there, didn't even know we were a church group, just saw a bunch of guys and come in and made a comment, ended up staying like half an hour talking about things going on in town.
Yeah.
And so we have something prepared, but a lot of times, at least 2 of them, I specifically prepared something, and it got totally derailed, which was great because the guys had something they wanted to talk about.
Yeah,
and I like that. And so I may pull out that one this time and plan to use it and see if we actually get through it this time. So that's one thing. January 13th, right here at the church, 7:30 a.m. The second thing I had was that Wednesday nights start back on the 17th.
Yep.
Because I'm sure people wonder. We always kind of pick either the second or third week, depending on how things have gone, when we think we can get volunteers here. So this year it's the 17th, and we will be, I think pretty much the same groups will be happening, but we'll be kind of publishing what we're going to be doing.
Yeah.
So
use the next couple of weeks to kind of get yourself unpacked and reset and ready to go for the year, and enjoy family time. Try to get some rest in, maybe a little bit. If you're like me, after time on vacation, which is always spent with family, I'm a little bit even more tired than usual. So if you need some time of rest. And then men, the second Saturday of this month, we're going to be meeting here at the church at 7:30. And then Wednesday nights we'll start back up on the 17th at 6:30 p.m. Well, the spotlight of the week really is Levi and this idea of preaching and teaching something, and do you feel like you learn something in a different or better way when you have to preach or teach it? And then where I'm headed here is an encouragement for all of us to be teachers and preachers, because you really prepare differently when you feel like, all right, I'm going to have to be the one answering or speaking or talking. So walk me through your process of preparation. I know you've got great resources from the school that help with that, but is it different when you're the one that's actually going to be teaching it?
Yeah, absolutely. Usually if I'm the one that's going to be teaching it, like if I'm doing my own personal Bible study, I'll read through the Bible and basically just kind of take it at face value and everything like that. But if I'm going to be teaching it, I feel like I have to know exactly what that scripture is talking about. So that usually requires quite a few hours of study. You're usually I usually try to look at commentaries to see what they're talking about, what their interpretation is, and then compare it with other scriptures. Yeah. And so it's a pretty long, drawn out process. I think it took me well over 10 hours to write that sermon for this last week. I think this one was a little more difficult than others because of the message that was in it, and it was a little bit harder to get everything out of it than other ones I had done. But it's a pretty extensive process, and I feel like it takes a lot more to be teaching it rather than just reading it and trying to understand, because I have to be the one that says this is what the Bible means, which is
it's a big deal.
It's not something I try to take lightly, and so it's kind of scary sometimes to
a little bit, yeah.
So that's, for me, teaching is definitely a lot more involved than if I were just to look at scriptures on my own.
So I met you in 2018. You were, how old were you? 16?
2018, I would have been 16.
16 years old. And even then, you were still kind of quiet. Were you a quiet kid growing up?
I think so, yeah.
Did you imagine, like, I'll be speaking, from a stage, talking to these people and presenting, like, this sermon?
No.
Like public speaking, not in the...
No, so when Jake first came in, it was in my senior year, he had us do a student Sunday of sorts where me and two of my friends did a little mini sermon. It was only like 5 minutes.
Didn't we record that? Wasn't that through COVID?
Yeah, that was right.
That's right.
Because it was like 2 weeks after everything had shut down. So we came in and recorded it, but it was like everybody stay away from each other because it had just shut down. But whenever I went into college, I had never done any public speaking besides that. And that was all I had done. And so whenever I was going through the first couple of years, I took just oral comm, this basic speech class, which, I mean, the longest speech you do is like 5 minutes. So it's like very, very basic.
Yeah.
And then I took my first preaching class with Billy Strother, and I really, really liked it.
Yeah.
So I've tried to take as many as I can, which I think has only been 2 more. And so that's been, it's not something I imagine myself doing, but I really grew to like it a lot.
Yeah. I love going throughout like history, and when you look at different people who have been preachers or teachers, like you look at the different personalities, and there are so many different personalities. There's people that are real people, and there's people that are real quiet people, and there's people that are real studious, and there's people that are really, exaggerative and excited with how they present. Like there are all different kinds. And I like how God's word still coming from a unique voice is still impactful to so many people. And I think it's a really cool thing. And not everybody needs to get up in front of a bunch of people and speak, but speak specifically to just studying. Has it changed? So if someone were to ask you about that passage in Isaiah, you feel a little bit more prepared now to actually say something. It's Isaiah 43?
Isaiah 41.
41. If you had an encouragement to give to people as they're reading their Bibles, yes, there's time to take it at face value, but is there any benefit to asking the question, how would I share this with others?
I think so, yeah. Because whenever I read something, I can think, oh, well, I understand what this is saying. But whenever you have to articulate how you would communicate that to somebody else, then to me, it's very different, because you have to develop exactly what you think about that in order to be able to say something about it to somebody else, rather than just reading it to them.
Yeah, asking those questions about like, okay, how would they hear it, and what are they going to think about it, and then what questions would they ask that I need to be ready to answer can be a challenging thing. So there you go. The encouragement for you is you can present God's word, and as you're studying, maybe ask yourself, how would I share this with those around me? And we think you did a fantastic job. Now,
Thanks.
My question is for you. Did you listen to the sermon while you were driving?
Driving.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So multitasking while you're listening, it's fine. For our listeners.
So I'm not a big audiobook person, but...
So you're watching it the whole time?
Well, no. But just in general, I listen to podcasts and things, but just, I don't know, this year I listened to a couple audiobooks in full, but in general, I don't do that because I zone out.
Yeah.
But I think specific, short periods of time like that I can do.
Yeah.
And when I'm like, I really want to hear this. It's not just a book I put on, because we had toyed around with just not going to a church Sunday morning and just do it online at the hotel. But you had to check out at 10, and so the timing wasn't going to work well. And anyway, we went to a church with my in-laws there in Branson. But yesterday, we were coming back from a family get-together in Kirksville, and I just thought it was a good time.
And when it's something you really want to hear.
That's for me.
It's not just like a book. It's not like one of my sermons. Like when you really want to hear it, you really want to get it.
But in general, Sunday morning, I listen to little snippets of your sermons because there's always something.
Oh, when you're here.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even if I'm back here, they come find me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sunday morning, something always happens. I'll be sitting back here trying to listen, and that door will open, and there's something breaking down, or the stream's not connected. Just something.
There's always
so I don't hardly ever get a full straight through sermon of yours even. So a lot of times I listen to them during the week again because I can actually listen to it. Yeah. And I don't have to have my work brain on as much. Yeah. But I totally agree with the thought that I learn better when I have to preach or teach something. Yeah. Because, I mean, I got great grades in school. I mean, I loved my professors and everything. But I've said this many times, even in our meetings, that I can learn for a test very easily, and then 3 weeks later forget it. And a lot of my central stuff was that way. I had to learn it to fill out a Scantron test, but then it was. I mean, it's somewhere deep down there. I'm not saying that I didn't learn it. I did learn a lot of that stuff, and it's somewhere there. It can be recalled, but I've learned so much stuff way better by having to pull out those same books and read them again because I have a sermon coming up about that text. Yeah. And then I actually internalize it. And now if you ask me about that text, that'll come back pretty quickly because I had to teach it to somebody else. And, I would say that's how everybody is at some level. Yeah. But having those, like you've preached way more than me. But I still have what I call a healthy amount of butterflies about when I preach. Oh, yeah. Because of the responsibility it is. Part of it's because I don't do it as much. But part of it is that is a deep responsibility. And I don't want to get it wrong. I don't want to lead somebody astray. Or I don't want to be asked about that text later and have to go back and fix something that I messed up. Yeah. I mean, sometimes it happens. But I want to put in the effort to try to make sure that doesn't happen. So
and when Jesus calls his followers, not all of them are given the gifts of teaching or prophesying or some of these things, but we are all called to make disciples. And on some level, that's saying, hey, this is what God's word says. We're gonna let me help you try to figure out how to live that out. And so as maybe you start your reading for the year, or as you're thinking through, how do I make Bible studies not just be I read it, check it off the list. Maybe ask yourself, how would I teach this? Maybe even come up with some little lessons, because you're not sure who God might put in your path or in your way that you be able to share what you're reading with them. Because it is for you, but it's also for those around you. So, well, there you go. We're glad that you've joined us today on the Ripple Effect podcast. Levi, thanks for being here. Thanks for preaching. Let me give you a quick blessing of the week. I was thinking about this as we were coming into the new year. I was thinking about Joshua, and I was thinking about how he was leading the nation of Israel in the famous verse where he says, "For me and my house, we will serve the Lord." Right before that, he tells the people, you can choose to serve God or not. I can't control your choice. And we, as I look around the world, and I look around even in our own church and in my own life, there are so many choices that people make and decisions that we cannot control. We can't control how people are going to respond, or the emotions they're going to have, or the choices that they're going to make. we can encourage them, pray for them, but at the end of the day, the choice that we have to decide is, how am I going to live my life? And am I going to serve the Lord, and am I going to honor Him and follow after Jesus or not? And so I know that many of you are praying for loved ones, you're praying for people around you, but at the end of the day, remember the choice that you have to make is, am I going to choose to serve the Lord today or not? And my encouragement to you and my challenge to you is, would you focus on that? And as you think about this new year, make the decision, am I going to serve God this year or not? No matter what comes my way, for me and my house, we are going to serve the Lord. We love you all. We hope to see you next week here on the Ripple Effect Podcast. We will see you later.